One second, guys. Let me get this shit set up. Okay, we're live on YouTube, and just a moment should be live on Facebook. All right, everyone, welcome to the Conscious Resistance Live. My name is Derrick Broze. Today is Friday, December 14th, 2018. This is episode 91 of the Conscious Resistance Live. Today we're going to be talking about new warnings about artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about new pesticide, insecticide dangers. We'll be talking about genetically modified foods and a couple other health-related things in today's show. But I do want to go ahead and remind those of you who might be new here to visit theconsciousresistance.com and bookmark our website. And of course, if you're just watching us live for the first time, please comment. Let me know you can hear me okay, especially if you're listening on YouTube. Your audio might be a little less quality than the audio over here, but let me know if you can hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up, smile, heart, something cool like that. And then if you don't mind commenting below, letting people know where you're listening from. And the reason we do that, of course, is if you see somebody tuned in from your area, perhaps message them, connect with them, see if you guys can start connecting with each other on issues that relate to your local community and trying to focus on solutions. Because despite the fact that this weekly podcast, this weekly show is oriented around focusing on the problems, I'm very much focused on the solutions as well. So we want to focus on solutions. So go ahead, comment below. If you see somebody near your area, connect with them. And also, if anybody can share this, anybody out there who shares, admins, any big pages, any shares are appreciated. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the main house cleaning stuff we need to do today. What's up from Arkansas? This is really kind of interesting for me. I'm like looking at my webcam on Facebook and I'm looking at my phone on YouTube, but we make it work. So once again, my name is Derrick Broze at theconsciousresistance.com. I want to remind you to bookmark theconsciousrisistance.com. Go ahead and go to our YouTube channel if you're still using YouTube. YouTube, BitChute, Steemit, Minds.com, MeWe. These are all alternative platforms that I'm currently using and will continue to use in 2019. So I want to invite you guys to join those if you haven't yet. And I will be going through the comments as they come. It is, sometimes kind of difficult for me to keep up with the comments on both platforms, on Facebook and on YouTube, but I'm doing my best. So if you have a question, just go ahead and put it out there and I will answer it. And also for those who are watching on YouTube today, I will be posting the comments to you in the live stream. So let's get right into it, guys. You know that I focus on artificial intelligence fairly often. I try to get people to, not just artificial intelligence, but surveillance in general. I try to get people to talk about surveillance technology and what that means for our world, how that's going to affect our world, and what it means for the future of humanity, the future of privacy, if privacy is going to continue to exist. And I don't know. I mean, to me, all these issues are interconnected, because if we don't have privacy, as we have learned in the past from past tyrannical regimes, if we don't have privacy, then we're really not truly free, right? Because if they can send a soldier to sit inside your house and watch you or wait outside your house and guard you like they've done in the past, well then, are you truly free if you're not free in your own home? Now, of course, these days in the technological era that we live in, they don't necessarily need to send a troop into your house to invade your privacy, right? They can just send the Google Home or these various devices. And some of them, people out there are voluntarily buying and putting into their homes. Unfortunately, it's pretty sad. But a lot of the times, people are actually we have no say in this, right? I mean, this is my problem with 5G for those of you who are out there who are skeptical. Like, let's say you don't care about the health concerns about 5G. Like, okay, again, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a researcher, so you don't have to believe my opinion and think it's worth a damn. But if you care about freedom and privacy, which also I've learned some people don't care. If you have nothing to hide, then, there's nothing to worry about kind of mentality that we've been seeing since 9/11. But if you care about privacy, if you care about surveillance, then you should be concerned with the technology that's going on. Now, obviously, technology is a tool, and just like any tool, that tool can be used in a certain way. It can be developed in a way that is, like, let's say, technology in the hands of hackers and in the hands of the free-minded people. It is decentralization, it's localization, it's empowerment, it's cryptocurrency, it's encryption, and all these kinds of things. And in the hands of the state and the government, and their corporate partners, it is corporate surveillance, it's spying, it's monitoring, it's peering into your everyday life and every activity you do to try to control it. And that's what it comes down to. Because at the end of the day, guys, let's just be real with it for a minute. I can be real with you guys, right? I think I can be real with you guys. Let's be real for a minute. At the end of the day, despite our best efforts, despite my best efforts to talk about solutions, because I do believe in solutions, and also I believe in making an effort, at least trying. At the end of the day, though, we are dealing with individuals who do not care about freedom and do not care about privacy. We are dealing with individuals who literally want to control every aspect of our lives. And that's all there is to it. They want to control every aspect of our lives in order to dominate us, as governments and corporate powers have done for generations now. They will continue to do this until we end up in a place where we have little to no freedoms, or we have only the freedoms that are allowed in this paradigm because they don't directly challenge the system. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have the freedom to surf the internet all day. You have the freedom to watch TV all day. You have the freedom to stuff your face full of sugary products and poison yourself with cigarettes. And you have the freedom to drink yourself blind and, do all these kinds of things, right? Obviously, there are repercussions to these actions, but nobody is standing in the way of that. In fact, those sort of things are actually encouraged through pop culture and through much of the mainstream garbage that we see out there, whether that means through music or through, just the culture itself, the mainstream culture. Again, that could be movies, it could be any kind of entertainment. We see these messages put out there, right? So they're not concerned, the people in charge are not concerned with you going out there and doing these actions that harm you as an individual. But if you dare challenge the paradigm and you dare ask questions about why we're racing forward with technology such as facial recognition, artificial intelligence, 5G, without slowing down and asking important questions about privacy, about safety, about health, about self-ownership, then if we're not doing those, then we're just going to end up in a really bad place. And I think that those of us, plebes, us regular folk at the bottom, we have a role to play in this too. I see a lot of people commenting on my 5G videos saying, oh, this will be perfect. When 5G comes out, I'll just vandalize or I'll just smash those small cells or whatever. Honestly, I don't think any of you guys are going to go out there and smash any small cells. I think you just talk big on the internet, but that would be a solution. Yes, I am advocating destruction of private property by destroying cells and destroying equipment that is just going up against our very ability to be free, powerful, clear-thinking human beings, because this equipment is literally being put into place in order to control us and in order to monitor everything we do. Somebody asked, why is 5G so dangerous to privacy? Now, I have noticed that maybe I haven't been clear enough on this aspect. We did do a video called A Vision of a 5G Smart City, which is available on our website and our YouTube channel. But essentially, think about this. Now, what we're being told, the only thing we're being told about 5G is that if we want autonomous vehicles, driverless cars, if we want artificial intelligence, if we want virtual reality, augmented reality, and all this futuristic crap that we've been promised for the movies have been telling us are coming, if we want all those things, then we have to have 5G. Because 5G and moving towards 5G and allowing that spectrum to open, it will open the airwaves to the Internet of Things, which is going to be tens and thousands of devices which will be interconnected. So you'll have your smart home, your smart fridge, your smart shaver, your smart toaster, your smartphone, your smart car, your smart Google Home, all these kinds of different things, right? They will be interconnected. Now, not only is that, as far as security goes, that is not a good thing, right? These systems are being put in place, and many experts have said that these systems are extremely hackable. So let's say you're worried about the Chinese or whoever hacking you, or the US government or any just hacker off the street, that's a problem. But also every one of these devices, let's say the smart lights that they have on the street that they say, well, this is going to be more environmentally friendly, right? Instead of just running the lights 24/7 or 12 hours a day once the sun goes down, those lights will be activated by motion sensors in the ground. We're going to put motion sensors in the ground that can tell when somebody's walking, and then that'll trigger the light, and then the light will turn on, and there you go. And then once somebody walks away, it'll turn back off. And it's like, wow, that's so cool and futuristic and sounds awesome. Like, that's the kind of world we should be living in. Except they don't tell you that that means those devices will have microphones in them. They will have different sensors in them. They will be recording 24/7. They also are putting gunshot detectors in these lights. And I've been writing about this for half a decade now. So if sometimes I seem a little bit frustrated, or if I'm short with people, because you guys, I think my real like hardcore group of followers and supporters who've been connected to me for a long time, you guys understand where I'm coming from. And I think you sometimes see my frustration on YouTube and Facebook when I'm dealing with these idiots. And I say that with as much compassion as I can muster. You know, when you've been writing about something and talking about it for, I've been doing this since 2009, 2008. When you've been doing it for just this short amount of time, you know, 10 years is not a long time. It's very easy to get frustrated and flustered when you're dealing with idiots, when you're dealing with people who just refuse to see what's going on, or they would rather not acknowledge it because it's just easier to live in their comfortable reality. So excuse me if sometimes I get flustered with people. Now, okay, I've been ranting enough. Let's go ahead and get into the surveillance news, which I was initially talking about. And this is relating to artificial intelligence. Experts issue urgent warning against facial scanning with a, quote, dangerous history. And I'm going to post this again in the chat room on YouTube for those of you. And for those of you on Facebook, I will be doing the same thing. Give me just a second. All right, so artificial intelligence experts issue warning against facial scanning with a dangerous history. What are they talking about? Facial recognition software, of course. That's something that I've talked about. I actually did a video maybe a couple months back called, "Is it too late to stop facial recognition scanning?" And the answer, I would say, is yes. A clear and resounding and very unfortunate yes. It is definitely too late to stop facial recognition scanning and software of our lives. And it makes me quite sad to realize that, because I would like a solution. When I talk to you guys about a problem, I typically would like to also say, well, here's the solution. Here's what we need to do to fix it. And in some of these cases, we don't have a clear solution. So this is coming from The Intercept. It says, facial recognition has quickly shifted from techno-novelty to fact of life for many, with millions around the world at least willing to put up their faces scanned by software at the airports. Because if you didn't know this, in the United States, they've been scanning the faces of international travelers for at least a year or more now. And now they started to test it in the Houston International Airport, the Los Angeles International Airport, and it's expanding, as we're going to get into in a moment, with the TSA's recent programs that we've talked about, privacy concerns related to the TSA's concern. But this is coming from a group called AI Now, Artificial Intelligence Now. The 2018 report is a 56-page record of how artificial intelligence continues to spread without oversight, regulation, or meaningful ethics scrutiny. The report covers a wide expanse of uses and abuses, including instances of racial discrimination, police surveillance, and how trade secrecy laws can hide biased code from the public. So they go on to describe specifically what they're most concerned about is the social implications of artificial intelligence, and they express dread over a particular aspect of facial recognition software, which is called affect recognition, which is described as a subclass of facial recognition that claims to detect things such as personality, inner feelings, mental health, and worker engagement based on images or video of faces. So think about this. They describe it, the thought of your boss watching you through a camera that uses machine learning to constantly assess your mental state is bad enough. But think about this in the hands of police who are constantly scanning faces to look and see what is your intent, or what is your personality, what are your inner feelings, your mental health. You know, when we start getting to a place where the government is using technology to tell us, we know what you're feeling, we know what's in your mind, we know what's in your head. We're getting into some really scary territory. And unfortunately, that's the direction we're headed in. So we really got to understand this, because this is the world we're living in. And this is also some of the reason I've been getting thought to leaving the United States, to not staying in the United States past 2020, if that long, because 2020, 2021, in that time frame, 5G will be live, and 5G will bring about the Internet of Things. 5G will bring about the end of privacy. It's going to bring about, all the various technologies that people have health concerns about. It's also going to be facial recognition scanning everywhere, because the other story that I want to touch on for a moment here, it says concerns over privacy in TSA facial recognition program, because the TSA has announced in the past couple months that in order to fly domestically in the United States by next year, by 2019, and by the end, but coming to 2020, you are going to have your face scanned. You will either be biometric face scan or retina scan or thumbprint, something along those lines. And the other thing about this is they don't even necessarily have to get us to submit. Think about this. When you're flying, they might not literally come up to you with a facial recognition device and scan your face. Instead, what these new reports are showing that the TSA is already partnering with the FBI's facial recognition database. And again, if you've read my articles over the years, you've heard me talk about this. FBI's facial recognition database is a huge secret that they've been trying to keep secret from the public for years. They don't want us to know how much information they have or how they gathered that information. So the TSA says, though, that they might just connect with the FBI database or the DMV. So you have a DMV in your state, you know, Department of Motor Vehicles. And some people will say this, oh, who cares if the government has my face? They already have my face when I got my driver's license. Yes, but the idea is that there is supposed to be some separation between governmental agencies. It's not just supposed to be, well, you took a picture of your face to get a license, so now the FBI can use that to scan and look for you everywhere they want. There's supposed to be, ideally, and obviously this is long gone, there's supposed to be some separation of powers between these branches of government, and we don't have that. Instead, we're dealing with the continued intermingling and incestuous relationship between one branch of government to the next until they're just becoming this giant monster that does not care about you, your privacy, your freedom, your safety, your health, despite what people on TV want to tell you and despite what any sort of presidential candidates might want to tell you. Jeremy Scott, National Security Counsel with the Electronic Privacy Information Center, said, right now there is no federal regulation with respect to the use of biometric data, which means that they can do whatever they want. If the government has already created the ability to do this in airports and databases to identify people, it's a really easy leap to use that in other settings. And right here he says, he and others warn of mass surveillance program already underway, one which the TSA maintains could help you get through security a little bit faster. Because just like with 5G, people are like, well, if it gets me through security faster, or if it gets, you know, if it helps me watch my TV shows quicker or stream them quicker, then I'm all for that, right? Because we live in a world where people are willing to trade freedom for convenience, freedom for entertainment. They're not thinking in terms of the seventh generation. If you've heard me talk about this before, if you've heard any of my presentations in the last year, I've talked a lot about the seven generations, the coming generations, the future generations. We take this from our indigenous communities, and we understand that if we don't start living for more than just the present moment and what's happening here, then we're fucked. We're screwed. There's no way anybody's going to have anything close to what anybody alive today has experienced. You know, we're being promised this great technological future where everything's going to be just so amazing and easy and convenient, but none of the problems are being discussed. And this is, it's a recipe for disaster, guys. I know I'm mainly preaching to the choir today, unfortunately, but it's still important to get this information out there. Now, this next story here, and you guys can kind of see a theme of these first few stories here. We're talking about surveillance. I talked about AI, talk about facial recognition in the airports. And here's just another example of how they get this surveillance in every area. And this is from techdirt.com. It says how bike sharing services and electric vehicles are sending personal data to the Chinese government. Yeah, those very convenient bike sharing services that they are getting in more and more cities, including Houston here. Yeah, those are collecting metadata too. And some people would say, so what is a bike, you know, that I rented out one day downtown going to tell somebody about me? What could that possibly know about me? Well, let's see here. It says that Mobike, which is the world's largest bike sharing operator, apparently, according to privacy expert Alexander Hoff, says that data from the associated Mobike smartphone app is sent back to Mobike servers in China. It is shared with multiple third parties. The privacy policy limits this sharing in no way whatsoever, and they are using what is effectively a social credit system to decrease your score if you prop a bike against a lamppost to go and buy a loaf of bread. So think about this. They're literally, now this is just another way to integrate the system. And for those who are deep divers and understand the bigger picture, if you understand Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, you understand the United Nations and global government's plan to monitor and track everything we do. They also would like us to be driving less and to be living in smaller houses and smaller containment centers. They want more people riding bikes, and I ride bikes everywhere. I love riding bikes. I just finished a bike ride before I came here. But I can also understand how these bike sharing services, which seem really cool and nice and interesting, here's just another way to track people, to get their data and to share it with governments. And then again, through that social credit system to hurt their social standing by, this example, he said, oh, you leaned your bike up against the lamp. That's not where you're supposed to do it. Or you left it in the wrong part of town. Or you didn't lock it up, or whatever silly things. Or we noticed while you were on your ride-sharing bike today that you stopped at the donut store. But we also look here at your health insurance, and it says that, you're unhealthy, so we're going to have to penalize you. And what I'm talking about here is this interconnected system. Anybody here seen From Freedom to Fascism, old school conspiracy documentary from back in the day that woke up a lot of people? It definitely woke me up. From Freedom to Fascism describes this whole system, and Aaron was very ahead of his time, and he talked about that. You know, there's in that documentary, when you watch it, there's a man who literally tries to do that. He tries to order a pizza, but all the systems are so interconnected. They basically say, well, we see here, according to your recent health checkup, you're actually overweight, and you have high cholesterol. So if you want to order that pizza with all that extra meat, we're going to have to charge you a health fee. And then it just shows you how all those different systems are interconnected. We are in that world. We are living in that world. From Freedom to Fascism has come to life, and people still can't even see it. The next text, well, I think that's it for the tech stories, the surveillance stories. I want to just rant again on that for a moment. Now, it is about micromanaging our lives. It is absolutely about micromanaging our lives. It's about controlling every aspect we do, because let me just be real with you for a minute. Each and every one of you are intrinsically valuable, are inherently capable of so much. You are powerful beyond your wildest dreams and beyond any of your doubts, fears, and insecurities. And I'm saying this to you as much as I'm saying this to myself. And this system and the people who have engineered and controlled the system are absolutely aware of the power that lies in wait within each of us. They want to give us drugs to distract us and numb us down. They want to give us a culture that tells us that we're nothing, and that the only happiness we can create in life is by pursuing technology and material wealth and these sort of material goods. When in reality, we know that really we are much more than that. And it's so easy to get stuck down and to brought down to this physical realm. And I do it all the time. Like, I love interacting with you guys. I love sharing information and sharing knowledge. But I need to be outside more often. I need to be riding my bike more often, because it saves my mental health. It makes it so that I can actually exist within this world, and I can actually learn to navigate this crazy maze that we have to live in. Now, my point here is that we have to find ways to move beyond these circumstances. I see some comments over here on YouTube about, is there a place in the world that we can escape to? I think there are some places. We'll have to have conversations about that, and I do have upcoming videos about where I might plan to go, although I won't say where I'm going to go on the internet. But we have to come together as free, powerful, beautiful people, even if the only way we can come together is by talking to each other on the internet, and help us get through this neuroses and the bullshit that this system preys upon. Because if each of us are stuck in our doubts, fears, and insecurities, in our internal trauma, and if we're sitting here, let me just personalize it, because I have goals that I want to get to. I want to be more than just a journalist. I also want to get back to playing music. I'm trying to be a rapper. I'm trying to, there's so many interests I want to have. I want to get in better shape. There's so many things that I care about, and I'm constantly trying to put pressure on myself to make time to do everything I want. And I just see that there's so much beauty in this world. I want to travel more. I want to speak to more people. There's so much to do in this life. How could anybody ever possibly be bored when we have so much at our fingertips? And the digital world allows that. But there are also downsides to this world, right? So we have to find the balance. We have to find the balance between everything we want, everything we wish we could have, and in the reality that we're living in, right? Sometimes I tell myself, you know what? You can't have all those dreams you want, Derrick, because you can either dedicate your time to trying to wake people up and changing the world by, changing myself, of course, working on my own shit and spreading solutions and knowledge, or I can just go travel. Like right now, if I wanted to, I could pick everything up I own and move to Mexico and live on the beaches for very cheap. I get to work remotely. I could do that. I could just disappear and forget about all these problems, or try to at least, and spend the rest of my life sipping margaritas on the beaches of some awesome Mexican town, or somewhere down in Costa Rica, or wherever I wanted to go, because of the position I find myself in. Would I be happy? I don't think so. Not for long. I don't think I'll be happy if I'm not spreading awareness and spreading information, but I would like to get to a place where I don't have to fight this fight every day, forever, waking up and thinking about, well, what shit are they doing today? What false flags going on today? What lies are being spread today? What misinformation is being promoted today? How can I get people to think deeper? How can I get people to challenge the crap that they're being fed through these institutions? I mean, this is what I live and breathe every single waking moment thinking about. Constantly trying to think of new ways to reach you guys and to reach even more people. And some of you may realize we've been getting a lot more followers and subscribers. That 5G video is going viral right now, and I'm so thankful to everybody who shared it. The Epstein documentary is bringing in a lot of new people, and I'm thankful for everybody new that's coming in. And I want to continue to create content that can reach you and make you understand what's going on in the world, and we can share knowledge with each other. And I'm trying to balance that with just being happy in my own life and just finding the peace in my own life and not being so sucked into this. Because I will say, since this summer, since I come back from my tour, I've been spending a lot more time on the internet doing research. When I'm on the road, you guys may notice I only post one daily live update from traveling, and that's about it, because I'm just driving all day. I don't have time to be researching. And I'm thankful for both. I'm thankful to connect with people face to face in the real world, and I'm thankful to connect to you guys here in the digital world. But at the end of the day, my point here with this little rant is that it's up to each of us to find the balance, to come together, and absolutely to meet our neighbors and to come together as friends, as family, as just cohabitants in this crazy planet and find the solutions. To be quite honest, I like being alone. I like spending most of my time alone. I think sometimes this might throw people off because I'm such an open person on the internet, but a lot of times when I'm, around other people, I really don't want to necessarily communicate. I like to be in my own bubble. I like to throw on some headphones and go on a bike ride or get high and just spend time watching videos and thinking. Like, that's just what makes me comfortable. But I'm also very thankful for the internet, for being able to connect to you guys in this way. And, excuse the rant about, whatever I just went into. But I think it's important for us to be real and just to acknowledge that there's a lot of crazy shit going on in our world. But we have to find a way to navigate it. We have to find a way to overcome it. Otherwise, we're just going to be miserable. Like, we're just going to end up miserable. And maybe we'll know what's going on in the world, but we'll all be miserable. We'll all hate every moment in our lives. And what's the point of being miserable and being awake and alive if, I don't understand. Like, I don't want to say I would rather be ignorant, but I want to make sure that I can be awake, aware, constantly pursuing new knowledge, and living a life that does not bring force, harm, or aggression to other lives. And at the same time, in the midst of all that, journalism and philosophy and research and all that I find time for bike rides and for spending time with my animals and the people I love and going on walks and getting involved in community gardens, I got involved in a new local garden this week. Got to meet a local gardener here, literally right down the street, a 2-minute walk from my house. And he said he gave us some plants and said we could start coming in there and getting involved now. So that's cool. Progress is being made on that level. And from that little small step, taking the time out of my research to go be in the real world and talk to another human being, now I have an opportunity to plant food closer to me or to get seeds and to have more knowledge. And of course, as you guys know, that the more food we plant of our own, the less dependent we are on these centralized food production systems. And that's the solution. That's the solution. That's what this whole long-winded rant was about. The solution is to unplug, to decentralize, to vacate the system, to reconnect to ourselves. Yes, you're correct. To remember who we are, to put ourselves back together and to come back together as a human species. And that's the only solution. Anything less than that, and we will not get the goals that we're after. And that is why I'm being so adamant about switching off of these mainstream platforms. I've had some of you friends tell me that I shouldn't be leaving the mainstream social media platform because I'm just gonna make it harder for people to reach me. And that is true. I know I will lose half of you, but I'm convinced that if we don't make an effort to actually live by our principles and take ourselves seriously, then we're not going to actually see change. We will never see real change if we don't live our principles, if we don't stand by them and say, enough is enough. I won't do this anymore. I won't participate in a system that goes against my goals and my values, right? So that's what I'm after. All right, guys, let's get into some more news. I just posted a link in the chat, both chat rooms, and this one it's like one of those stories that you see out there that it just gets lost in the midst of all that mainstream because there's so much going on in the world, right? That, this is just one of many stories. But I saw this one a couple days ago. It says the FCC is considering ending merger ban among broadcast networks. So what does that mean? Check out that link for yourself and you can read along. The Federal Communications Commission, which, by the way, the FCC is also in charge of the 5G rollout, on Wednesday, just this week, voted to open a new review of U.S. media ownership rules and to seek comments on whether the government should end a prohibition on mergers among the 4 largest broadcast networks. Because if you've done any research by now, you know that all the media that you read is controlled by 5 corporations. 5 corporations, and I talked about that this summer on my presentation about the pyramid of power. So the 5 corporations control everything that you see, hear, and read. Obviously, there are independent companies outside of that, but for the most part, you can trace it back up. Even companies like Vice and some of these alternative platforms that attempt to appear independent are owned by some of these same big corporations. When it comes to the broadcast networks, there are 4 main networks that control everything. This includes NBC, which owns Comcast, Walt Disney, which owns ABC, and CBS, which is obviously CBS, and Fox, which is owned by 21st Century Fox. So you have NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox. So those 4 big companies now, they might be able to merge and become even bigger. Think about this. The FCC asked if the rule remains necessary to promote competition, localism, or viewpoint diversity. FCC Chairman Ajit Pai said the commission is teeing up a number of questions and keeping an open mind on whether the rule still makes sense. The FCC noted that a version of the rule barring dual ownership of networks has existed since 1940s, and they asked whether U.S. antitrust laws or policies would serve as a sufficient backstop to prevent consolidation between the 4 big networks. So essentially what's happening here is they're basically, and they're considering at some point soon removing all restrictions to allowing these big 4 corporations to becoming even bigger and more consolidated. Anybody out there ever seen the movie Fight Club? I'm sure you guys have seen the movie, and if not, some of you have read the book. But in Fight Club, you know, one of the things that he talks about is just the corporatization of our lives, right? And I think in there he shows like a Microsoft like satellite like floating in the sky and things like that. And we're really at that point where corporations and their partners in government have just controlled everything in our lives. That's why we have sports stadiums that are named after banks. We have all kinds of corporate sponsorship of various institutions that are essential to our lives. One area I want to ask you guys about, think about this. When you go to the airport, if you've ever been inside any airport or any kind of store like that, even say army bases, hospitals, these institutions, they get partnerships. They make partnerships, sign deals with various companies. So they might say, we're only going to allow Coca-Cola products into our store. So when you go in there, you have the illusion of choice, right? You got Coca-Cola and you have all these different crap like poison drinks, and they're all different shades of color. But at the end of the day, they're all owned by Coca-Cola, right? And the same thing, you go into the hospital and you have McDonald's, and you go into the army bases and you've got all the crappy, shitty food, which, I mean, to me, it's just so backwards. Why would you I was at a hospital recently visiting a friend, and they have McDonald's there right in the middle of the hospital, literally open up to like midnight. Like, I think it might have even been 24 hours. So there's a problem going on in our world where there's just so much corporate control and so much corporate interference in our world that I'm not sure we're able to escape it or we're going to be able to get away from it, because we're getting to the point now where it's just corporations are sponsoring and controlling and in bed with governments everywhere we go, and they're also sponsoring everything you do. So at least I guess the benefit of it is, when you're going down the freeway, you're like, oh, this is McDonald's new super highway, this is JP Morgan's new hospital, this is Chase Bank's new stadium. At least they're showing us who owns everything around us, they're showing us the truth at least. All right, guys, kind of getting lost here in my rant. Now, the next couple of things I want to talk to you guys about are genetically engineered, bioengineered foods. There's this new article talking about the USDA, Department of Agriculture, will release a final rule on labeling GMO foods. For those of you who are unaware, genetically modified, genetically engineered foods, that term is going to disappear very quickly because the government, the US government and the FDA are working to erase that labeling. After most people have become used to the labeling of foods as genetically engineered, now it's going to be referred to as bioengineered. And in that link I just posted to you guys, you can see this. But it says, after a contentious 2-year comment period pitted corporate interest against consumer advocates, a rule requiring companies to label genetically modified foods is being finalized this week. This was reported last week, right? So at the end of the Obama administration, so everyone's aware where this started. At the end of the Obama administration, they passed a bill that they said was a Food Safety Labeling Act, and everybody promoted this as, this is the results of the march against Monsanto. We finally got food labeling, And of course, what happens when you put government in control of things? It screws it up, it slows it down, it doesn't actually reflect the will of the people. So people were calling for labeling, some people were calling for banning, some people were calling for more studies, and you had some cities, some counties, and some states passing their own laws. Well, the government got involved and said, hey, we can't have this patchwork of laws, we have to have one uniform standard. So Obama passed this 2016 law, which passed the Congress and became law, and Trump has continued to support it, and that is leading to what they're calling now bioengineered foods. And people have complained about this and criticized it already because this new label apparently is going to have a QR code, which some people say it is going to affect the poor, because if you're poor and you don't have a smartphone or you don't have the ability to scan these things, then you're not going to have the information that you need about the food. So instead of just putting it right on the food, you have to scan something and go to a special website which will tell you bioengineered food is safe. Don't worry about anything. This food is saving people all around the world. It's saving starving kids in Africa. Bill Gates loves you. He doesn't care. You know, he's not a bad man. Trust us. Trust us. Bioengineered food is the future, right? And of course, the answer is to grow your own damn food. Get involved in community gardens. Get involved at local gardens. Get involved in urban farms. Get involved at any sort of localized infrastructure that you can. Even if you're putting in 2 hours of your week on a weekend at a community garden, you're going to start learning about getting connected to the earth. You're going to start learning about what plants can be planted with others. You're going to start learning techniques and skills that can save you in the long term. Think about this again, long term. 7 generations. Don't just think about what's in front of you. Think long term for you and your family's safety. Start growing your own food. Put in some herb gardens in the windowsill. Start there and make it a regular habit. And then start planting some food maybe in your backyard or your front yard if you can get away with it. Or maybe you got a friend who's got a lot of space that you can plant in, or find an urban garden. And if you can't do that, then at least go buy from community markets, farmers markets, where you can actually talk to the people themselves who are growing the food and maybe get a better understanding of what has been done to your food. Now, the link that I'm looking at right now, for those of you who can see my screen, I'll post this to you guys on YouTube, it's a picture of the images that they're planning to use for the bioengineered food disclosure standard. And all it is it's green and yellow and blue with BE written on it. And they have different versions of this. May be bioengineered food. That's how they're going to label it. This may be a bioengineered food with a nice sun and a smiley face on it, just so you don't worry about it. And I'm sure that they've probably gone in and done all of the preliminary studies and decided which colors are going to be least frightening to people and which colors are going to be most inviting to them. Because you don't want to put a label on there that scares people away, right? Because officially the government's saying there's no problem with genetically modified foods, genetically engineered foods. They're safe. There's nothing to worry about. And I don't think that's the case. I think there's reason to be suspicious of these foods. But they, of course, want to create a label that's very inviting to you and doesn't scare you away. So you get your genetically engineered foods. You know what I mean? All right. This last one on health, and then we're going to move on to the final topic of the night. Scientists urge ban of insecticides tied to brain impairment in kids. Now, I know I'm not a scientist, but whenever there are actual scientists and studies out there, and I know I'm just a simple YouTuber conspiracy theorist, so maybe these studies are just way over my head and I can't understand what's going on here, but according to this study here, done by researchers with the Environmental Health Sciences Center at the University of California, pregnant women should not be exposed to even low levels of a group of chemicals associated with a wide range of neurodevelopmental disorders in children. Word salad. Basically, pesticides that are called organophosphates, and which were originally developed as nerve gases and weapons of war. Because, I mean, there's no such thing as a pesticide that's good for people if it hasn't been applied as a weapons of war, right? I mean, that's kind of, it seems like a prerequisite. If you're going to be a pesticide to be sprayed on plants, you have to have been a weapon of war first. You know what I mean? You have to have a weapon of war where you can go kill people and target them and just give them cancer and make them sick. After that, we'll go ahead and start spraying it on the plants. I mean, I don't understand. Were the people that were alive at this time when they said, hey, we're going to spray this poison on people to kill them, and then we're going to bring it back home and just spray it on the plants? We promise you it's safe. Like, was nobody paying attention? I mean, you guys didn't have the internet now, so I try to give you guys the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, I just don't understand. So this was published in PLS Medicine, it says the chemicals should be banned outright because even at low levels currently allowed for agricultural use, organophosphates have been linked to lasting brain impairment in children, the scientists argue in a policy statement. Exposure to these organophosphate pesticides before birth is associated with conditions that can persist into late childhood and or pre-adolescence and may last a lifetime. I mean, why is that not on the front page of every paper right now? Why are there not actual journalists out there looking into the farms and the places in the countries around the world that are using organophosphates? This is what somebody who has the time and the energy and the resources needs to do. Find out which farms are spraying these organophosphates and which parts of the country in the United States and which parts of the world. And then cross-reference that with the amount of cancers, with different illnesses and ailments for young adults, because this is saying that if moms are exposed to these pesticides before birth, this is going to create brain impairment that can last into late childhood and pre-adolescence and may last a lifetime. Maybe that looks like autism. Maybe it looks like ADHD. Maybe it looks like all kinds of different things that they're doping up kids for, and it's coming from the pesticides. Acute poisoning is tragic. However, the studies we reviewed suggest that the effects of chronic low-level exposures on brain function persist through childhood and into adolescence and may be lifelong, which is also tragic. Once these pesticides enter the lungs or the gut, they are absorbed into the bloodstream and can pass through the placenta to babies developing the womb. From there, the blood can carry these chemicals to the developing brain. And the researchers basically said, without a ban on these chemicals, doctors and nurses should receive training on how to recognize and treat neurodevelopmental disorders related to the exposure of it. So again, this is just another epidemic that nobody is tracking. Nobody's keeping any tabs on where this is going. And I don't know. I mean, it's a travesty. Like, seriously, I mean that in all, without any hesitation. Like, it's sad to see that these are the kinds of things taking place in the United States, and people aren't asking questions. You guys know that. People don't ask enough questions. You're right. Two types of people out there. You either ask questions or you just accept the bullshit that's fed to you. And I'm trying to create more critical thinkers if I can, by any means. The final story I want to mention to you, there is a new farm bill, which, by the way, costs $867 billion. $867 billion. Of taxpayer dollars. So if you're in the United States or any country, specifically this story relates to the United States. If you're in the United States and you're paying taxes, this farm bill is coming out of your pocket. And I don't know if you've heard much about it because there's been a lot of hysteria about Trump and Russia and these kinds of things. But this farm bill seems like it might be kind of important. It passed the Senate with 87-13 vote on Tuesday. It passed the House on Wednesday, and now it's expected to be signed by Trump as soon as next week. So some of the interesting things related to this farm bill, because they call it a farm bill, right? But what they do is they stick all kinds of other projects in there that are unrelated to farms. So one thing that I thought was interesting, that's actually some positive news, is this bill will legalize the cultivation of industrial hemp, which is expected to be a $20 million industry by 2020. So everybody, please praise be to the government for giving us permission to grow hemp again. After, 100+ years of hemp being illegal, they're finally saying, okay, the people can have hemp back. We'll stop putting guns in their face and throwing them in cages if they decide to grow cannabis or grow hemp for textiles or for fuel or for all kinds of alternative uses. Because if you don't know about hemp, hemp can save the world. Hemp can be used as a fuel. Hemp can be used for clothes. Hemp can be used in so many different ways. Tough fibers. I mean, it's just an amazing plant, and it's going to be a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. But the government had to make sure they were ready for us to be able to make sure everything was safe before we could grow hemp. They didn't want to make sure that God didn't give us any plants that are dangerous and that are going to kill us, right? So we have to always rely on the government and trust the government to keep you safe, because that's what their point is, right? That's their whole reason for existing. Now let's see what else is here in this bill. I found a couple other interesting things. This is, again, maybe this is a positive thing, although I wish it came from you guys down on the ground level rather than the government level. Urban farming. The Farm Bill establishes a new office at the Department of Agriculture to advocate for and promote urban and indoor agriculture, such as community gardens, rooftop farms, and hydroponic and aquaponic farms. That sounds good. So they're literally creating a new bureaucracy within the government to focus on urban farming. Again, as far as government goes and as far as government taking money from people via taxation goes. I guess if they're going to study urban farming, that's something, right? It also says that the bill secures $50 million in annual funding for the Department of Agriculture to research programs that focus on organic farming practices and expanding organic agriculture. So again, that's kind of a positive, I think, if the government's going to focus on urban farming and funding organics, but I just wouldn't trust anything coming from the government. Now, here's an interesting thing that relates to some of the research we've been doing lately. Rural high-speed internet. Under the bill, funding for high-speed internet in rural communities will increase from $25 million to $350 million annually. That's a pretty big jump. So funding to help those people in the country who don't have internet is going to go from $25 million to $350 million. That's what, like a 12, 13, 15 times increase of the amount of funding. So all of you friends out there who are saying, "Oh, Derrick, I don't have to worry about 5G because I live in the country and they're never going to bring it out here." Well, I've tried to get you guys to realize that's not necessarily true, because one of the things they're saying is they want to make sure that people don't get left behind, what they call the digital divide, right? Only the people in the cities tend to get the newest technology, while all those poor people and those folks in the country, they get left behind. And the government only cares about you and wants the best for you. So they're going to make sure you don't get left behind as part of the digital divide. So they're going to bring 5G to the country. And now, according to this new farm bill, there's going to be $350 million available to investing in infrastructure in rural areas. There will be nowhere to get away from 5G. There will be no way to get away from this smart grid, at least not in the United States. Now, I want to take a moment to address a couple of questions. I'm going to start winding the show down now. You got about 10 minutes or so left with me. If anybody's got questions, I will be looking over your comments. I'll be scrolling back through YouTube and through Facebook. But my point is, when you start to understand how, a farm bill, right? It says it's about farms and making sure the farms and the dairy farms have all the money they need, but they're also making sure that the rural communities are going to get the 5G, the dose of 5G. They're also going to make sure that everybody out there doesn't get left behind, right? So it's all interconnected. This is the government taking money from you to use it on projects that you don't like. So my friends out there who are okay with taxation and who think that, well, I don't like paying taxes, but that's the cost of living in a civilized society. Well, this is the problem, my friends. Involuntary taxation has non-smokers paying for tobacco subsidies. Involuntary taxation has vegans paying for animal farm subsidies. Involuntary taxation has people who are against 5G and against various technologies paying for those technologies' implementation. So that is the cost of supporting and condoning involuntary taxation. Now you could say, but Derrick, what are we going to do about feeding the poor people down the street? If we don't take it from everybody, then they won't voluntarily give. Well, how about we give the people an opportunity to show that? How about we go forward to a place in time where people can actually work together and respect each other and voluntarily fund the projects that they believe in? Because if we don't do that, anything less than voluntary and consensual relationships is only going to lead to where we're now. Where, as I said, vegans pay for subsidized meat, non-smokers pay for subsidized tobacco, anti-vaxxers pay for vaccine programs, and all those kinds of things. Like, we can go on and on and on with these examples. My point is that if you support involuntary taxation, you're supporting putting guns to the heads of your brothers and sisters. And what do I mean by that? Because I know sometimes these metaphors, people are like, what? I didn't put a gun to anybody's head. I just paid my taxes like a good person. Yes, but when your brothers and sisters say, no more, I will not stand for this, I will not pay these taxes, and they refuse to pay taxes, what happens? Well, eventually they get a letter from the IRS man, and then that letter gets a little bit angrier, and then maybe eventually some guys come to the door, and then eventually armed men with guns will come to your door and take you and put you in a cage, aka prison, for not paying the involuntary taxes, right? And most of us say that that's okay, that's accepted, that's a civilized thing to do. Well, he should have paid his taxes, he should have been a good upstanding citizen. It's bullshit, right? That's not how the world should work. For those of you who care about consent and care about voluntary lifestyles, then you should care about giving people the freedom to opt out of everything. We should be able to opt out of government. We should be able to opt out of anything that we do not voluntarily consent to. That's the only way we're going to create a better world. Obviously, the world we're living in is far, far from that. So, who the hell knows what we're going to deal with. I just want to show you guys a couple other videos in case you haven't seen this recently. This is a video I put out a couple weeks ago called A Vision of a 5G Smart City. YouTubers, you can't see my screen, but you've probably seen the video. A Vision of a 5G Smart City. If you haven't seen it, please watch that one because it's a short 5-minute video that explains the privacy and security concerns, the surveillance concerns. I'll share that out to you guys on YouTube and on Facebook. And I also have this other recent video here, Sorry, I Was Wrong About 5G, which explains some of the science behind this. I have to get a little sarcastic sometimes. It helps me stay sane with these people because if I don't, then I'm just going to go insane dealing with some of these comments. And then I also have this recent video, which was just from this week. I made another visit to Houston City Council. I know some of you have ended up on our channels because you saw me at Houston City Council. That first video, it has gone from about 6,000 or 7,000 views to 130-something thousand just this week. So it's been blowing up and getting a lot more attention and discouraging me from leaving YouTube. But I'm glad you guys are seeing that. Unfortunately, some of the comments are saying, oh my God, City Council actually cares about 5G. But that was October, and I've gone several times since then, and they've made it quite clear they don't care about 5G. In fact, the mayor straight up told me in this recent video, which I'm posting to you guys, he said, I love 5G. Straight up, you know, he's showing where his allegiances lie right from the beginning. So check out those videos because they give you a little bit more accurate representation of what the situation is here in Houston. I will say this, I did have a friend, Marcus, reach out to me and say that my efforts here in the big city of Houston are making it easier for him to fight against 5G in the smaller cities. So if any of the information I put forth, if it's valuable, if it's helpful for you, please share it. You know, maybe I can't stop it here in Houston, but perhaps you guys can do something for your community that that can be beneficial, right? So please do consider sharing the efforts, sharing the videos. I'm going to start going through some of these comments now. Paranoid Android. Yes, I'm just a paranoid crazy. And feel free to post your comments again, or your questions again if I missed you. Jesus loves you. Jesus, thank you for loving me. I love you too. Are you leaving Houston? I will be leaving Houston soon. As I will definitely be leaving Houston by the end of 2019, and I'll be putting out a video very soon. I have this list right here. This is my list of videos that I'm supposed to release, and I always get behind. I have about 10 or so videos that I'm trying to catch up on, and one of them is talking about my plans for an intentional community, which I know many of you care about. I put out a video almost 2 years ago talking about launching an intentional community in Houston. And, well, I don't have it here. My third book, Manifesto of the Free Humans, talks about launching an intentional community in Texas. That was my original plan, but my plan has since shifted, and I'm no longer planning to do that in Houston. I'm not even sure I want to be in the United States. So, but I do plan on launching an intentional community. As long as that intentional community can respect that I like to have a lot of time alone, I definitely want to be on a piece of land that I can take care of. I can implement the ideas of permaculture, of counter-economics, of agorism, where we can have maybe like a centralized community space that we can host workshops on all sorts of skills. We can host documentary screenings. Or we can, put on music festivals as a way to raise money, really as a hub for a community. That's what I would like to envision in the ideal world. Unfortunately, we don't live in that ideal world, and we're very much living in a fucked up world where we don't necessarily have all the freedoms that I would like. So I'm going to try to create a community and a hub that we can, even within that small space, try to create the world that we want. But I will say this, I do believe any community that wants to form, any communities that want to be taken seriously and want to last, you have to think about defense. Not because I'm talking about overthrowing the government or anything like that, but because a community is only as free as it is able to defend itself. And what I mean by that is you can say, you're free, non-aggression principle, all these kinds of things, but when somebody comes and beats your community down or raids your community and takes all your things, as happened to other intentional communities where their gardens get raised and things like that, then you've shown you're not free, right? That doesn't mean, again, I'm not saying we need to arm up, we need to strap up, although I think it would be wise and advisable for any community members, what I call freedom cells. If you guys haven't heard of freedom cells, please check out freedomcells.org. That's another platform that I helped create. And I think that we need to organize more freedom cells locally so that we can build more intentional communities. Not so all of us can go to one single community, but so that we can continue to build these communities. But my point was, when we're coming together in these small, decentralized, localized groups, we still have to think about how we're going to protect ourselves. Not because we're preparing for doomsday or because we're thinking negative, but because it's the reality. We live in a world now where governments see you as the enemy if you want to promote alternative currencies, if you want to promote thinking independently, if you want to grow your own food, if they label you an extremist, a rebel, these kinds of things. These are the problems that I see, is that even those of us who aren't violent in any way and aren't trying to create problems in the world, we're being demonized. We're being labeled as enemies of the state. And that should show you their true motivations, because if they see those of us here, us peaceful people who want to create something better and who just want to be left alone, I mean, I think at the end of it, we just want to be left alone, right? Like, if we could go about our everyday lives and eat the food we want and go to work and contribute to systems that don't harm the world and don't destroy the world, then I think that's what most of us would do, right? But that's not the situation we live in. So although I am a peaceful person, I consider myself a spiritual person, and I believe in manifestation, and I believe in the power of our minds, and I'm manifesting a better world, I'm manifesting all the opportunities that we want to see. I also cannot blindly ignore the realities around me. And when I look around me in the physical realm, I see people building a police state and a surveillance state surrounding my entire being. And I look on the spiritual realm and I see them building darkness as well and surrounding us in a darkness, because this is not only a physical battle, it's a spiritual battle. So I definitely want to launch an intentional community in 2020. That's still my plan. And absolutely, please connect with me. My email is intothelight@protonmail.com. Intothelight@protonmail.com. Connect with me. Tell me specifically. Title it Intentional Communities, because I want to talk to more of you about intentional communities, because solutions. I know I've been spending a lot of time lately talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the Finders and all this heavy stuff, but without a doubt, don't doubt that I'm still focused on solutions. Part of this list of videos I have here is list of videos on freedom cells, self-defense, growing your own food, publishing propaganda, peaceful parents. The solutions is what really matters. The solutions to all the problems are what matters. So we need to constantly elevate our knowledge so that we are empowered and we can communicate from a good foundation with other people, so we're not just rambling off random bits of information. And I've been there before. When you take in a lot of information and then you get an opportunity to actually communicate with somebody, it might not come out as clear as you hoped or planned, right? You end up saying, but they're putting towers in all the places, and they're listening to me at night, and they're taking our guns, and you end up sounding crazy, right? Even if what you're saying is true. So help yourself, help us, help the movement, help the world by getting yourself a little bit better educated and having your arguments, clear and being able to communicate them. That's what I try to do, is to get my arguments down to a very concise and precise way of communicating and keep the emotion out of it. Obviously, I don't always succeed about that, but I think that's what we need to focus on. One comment I want to address here, I see somebody keeps asking about sativa or indica. Like, I'm down for sativa or indica. Somebody says 30 grams of shrooms will set you free. 30 grams of shrooms? Damn, 30 grams of shrooms will not set you free, but it'll put you on your ass for a while. Trust me on that. I haven't taken 30 grams, but I've taken a good amount of shrooms in my day, back in my day, and they can definitely help you. Mushrooms are magical and powerful. We talked about that on our channel, and they can be a very helpful, insightful tool. But as somebody who has stuffed drugs and medicines, including LSD, mushrooms, crystal meth, any pill you can imagine, cocaine, everything, into every single orifice possible, it doesn't take long to realize that those aren't the solutions you're looking for. So I would advise some caution with that. Those medicines have things to offer, but be very careful with that if you're seeking enlightenment down those rabbit holes, my friends. And I say that in all sincerity, all seriousness. I have a new video coming out about addiction and drug overdose next week. And many of you know my dad died from drug overdose this summer, so this is a topic really, really near and dear to my heart. So just be smart. Don't be a dumbass. Don't think that the solutions are going to come with putting drugs in your mind. They're tools. They're gifts from the Creator. They're gifts from the planet. They can be helpful. They can be useful, but don't become dependent on them. All right, guys, I'm out of here for the night. I'm about to go relax and go enjoy my evening. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you found this valuable, please watch, share, follow, bookmark, whatever helps, all those good things. And I hope you enjoy your weekend. Stay tuned for lots of new content coming out in the next weeks. If you haven't seen all of our new content, check out the channel, see what you missed this week, and share it out. All the shares are so much appreciated and valued by you guys. I've been doing this since 2009 when I first woke up. I started the Conscious Resistance in 2012, the YouTube channel 2012, 2013, and 6 years later, it feels like things are finally starting to pay off. You know what I mean? Like, I've been told by so many friends who have much bigger audiences than me that they don't know why my channel doesn't have more followers and more subscribers, but I keep pressing on regardless, and I'm thankful for each of you who've been there since the beginning, and to each of you who are just tuning in, I appreciate that. I hope you will stay a little bit longer and check out our work and see what we have to offer. Thank you guys so much for everything you do. You guys know the drill. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.